Evening, y'all. I am here with brother Chris Coon. I'm so psyched up. I've been following this brother. I admire this brother. I respect this brother. Brother, thank you for coming to rap with a sister, to holler at us.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna let you start off and do what you do. You doing you watch your we'll start with that and then we'll get right into it. I love it.
It's important that we pass the torch to keep the fire lit. Seek counsel from the elders, treat their wisdom like a gift. Unwrap it through practice, then write it down on manuscripts. Then pass it to the next generation of leadership. Peace. Ashe.
Ashe.
And Bobby Seabrooks. Just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna just have my grandpa sitting right there.
All right.
So I appreciate you inviting me, sis. Like I don't know. This is just it's beautiful. Like, believe it or not, being a spoken word artist, we don't get to just have conversations too often. I try to during my sets or during my shows. I try to sit back and take as much time to really connect with people, right, verbally, and really have that conversation. Let them know this is not a performance. I'm not here to perform. I'm here to really talk and connect with you. But to set the stage for that conversation intentionally is a beautiful thing. That's how I was raised.
So what I try to do when I interview people that you'll notice is that I kind of talk to folks about who are you? Where you from? Who are your peoples? Like, you know what I mean? How did you, what's the formula or the foundation or the root that got Chris Coon here and the way that we see you now? So when you were growing up, where are you from? Where did you grow up at? Where are your peoples from?
Okay. And so just for folks out there, yeah, Christopher Michael Coon. I guess I'm getting real transparent tonight. One of my big bros was like, hey, make sure that you keep it all the way transparent. You open up, and he's like, you go in and you let that lion out. If I'm gonna let the lion out, I guess I gotta let the lion cub out.
Okay, that's real talk.
Even before that, before the realization of the lion, I guess I gotta let the lamb out. Right.
Okay.
So understanding, so Christopher Michael Coon, birthed by Sharon Coon, Keith Coon. I was born in a military base, right, by the way of my father, who was in the Army. Coon is my actual last name. Coon the poet, my stage name. We don't really do nicknames around here, but Coon most definitely is my legacy. It's something I stand on firm, as well as Seabrooks. My family on my mother's side have been in Sacramento since the late 40s, right? My grandma and grandpa met in Oak Park. All right, they were kids. My grandma came out here, I believe when she was about 12 years old, from Louisiana. My grandpa, he was a kid as well from Georgia. So they met then, and then my family, then my grandpa bought his first home in Glen Elders.
Know what that is?
And he bought it intentionally with the vision that his family would always be good. Right, that his kids will be good, that his grandkids will be good, that his brothers and sisters, who he raised, they'll always have a place to go. The parents died while they were still kids, and so he's the oldest, and he raised them. I just found out recently that my grandfather had a vision, and so of course, houses were small back then, but they had a lot of yard, a lot of swale. My grandfather was a gardener and a cement mason. He expanded the house a little bit. He knocked out the garage and made an extra room. He had a vision to actually add more rooms onto the house, but then he got sick in his 40s. My whole life, my grandpa was sick, but I never knew it. From the time I was a kid, I saw him in the garden. He was working hard, smiling, or he was at the table drawing and painting. And I would watch him plant all these fruits and vegetables and then take them and give them away. Watch him paint all these beautiful masterpieces and then take them and give them away. It wasn't until I was about 19 years old that I realized the reason why my grandfather was doing this art form, it wasn't necessarily for financial gain. He was doing all these things that he loved for his peace, for his therapy. And it was only when at 19 I started going through what I went through, right? Life started getting even more real, right? It wasn't even about doing it for the sake of having people see. It was about doing it for the healing. What brought him peace? You see, as kids, when things got rough, right? When dysfunction was going on around us, we just went outside and played. He went outside to play. He just wanted to play. And so I remembered, and I constantly remind myself, when things get rough, and I'm going to talk to anybody who's listening out there, when things get rough, go play. Whatever your gift is, whatever your talent is, whatever your skill is, whatever you do naturally, whatever you enjoy, just do that. Know that, follow that. That is placing you on a path towards your vision, towards your dream, and then that's going to lead you toward your purpose, right, and your calling. And understand that the wealth is going to come as long as you're doing what you're called to do, right? And understand that your peace is going to come as long as you're doing what you're created to do. As long as you're doing what you do naturally, swimming in your water like a fish. Only time you dry up is when you get on the shore, because that ain't for you.
Real talk.
So, like I said, we can swing from different branches.
So let me ask this: how far can you go back in your ancestral line in terms of, like, you talked about your father, your grandfather? You have great grandfather, great great grandfather, mother.
Yeah, on my coon side, right? I can actually go back, because my family, now we're getting ready to get deep. I have an auntie who, very much like me in the spirit and the heart, and she has done a lot of research in my family. She went back so deep to even like the plantation, if you will, in Alabama. And actually my family on that side of the family, the person that owned the plantation, when the Africans were free, right? When we were then considered free, he gave the plantation to them, right? And so he actually, I don't know, the way they explained it in the video was that he was a good slave owner, whatever. But he then passed that land to them. And so,
well, they paid for it already.
That part.
With blood, sweat, and tears.
But
that was nice. He was being honorable, man.
You know? And so I do have, there's some family jokes of like certain family members that have, that had certain traits inside of them, like they were kind of rebellious. One actually ran away after he did some things. And I'll keep it all the way real. Yeah, he did some things, and the slave master was going to kill him, but then he got away. He had started another family, and then got away and started our lineage. But it makes perfect sense. And in both bloodlines, so that's the Coon side. In my mom's father's side, which is from Louisiana, they're most definitely, some may call them hustlers and gangsters, right? Yeah, I got a great grandfather by the name of Ernest Watkins, right? He used to run the numbers, play the numbers, right? Now we have a real conversation.
That's
now.
Right, that's all history.
It's important to know what's inside of you. Mm-hmm. It's important to understand, different character traits or even skills that you may have. It allows you to stand firm and make a decision on the direction that you want to go and how to utilize certain skills and gifts. And so, most definitely, my great-grandfather faked his death when my grandma was 12, found out he lived 10 more years after that. But he was most definitely a man that, he was a man from what I pulled from, like, even my grandmother telling me the story, he didn't play that.
That's what's up.
He didn't play that. Which it makes perfect sense for my grandmother. And also her mama didn't play that from the time that she passed, which was only 2013. She fought. She was not ready to go. She kept on squeezing and releasing, balling up her fist. Grandma B wasn't ready to go. But she was ready to, she would have fought you the whole way, and she was fighting the whole way. That fight was in my grandma. That fight is in my grandmother. To this day, my grandmother is 70-something, because grandma be 70-something. I'll just say that. But even then, I watched my grandma take a lot of hits, a lot of, and stand firm during a lot of things, even while my grandfather was sick. And she, you can't make Murtis Seabrooks do nothing that Murtis Seabrooks don't want to do.
All right.
That rebellious side, and that is in my mother, but it's also in her son, right? And I'm like, listen, I got a little bit of different things. I got a soldier. My father was a soldier. I got rebellious people in my family. So when it comes to like me being in a position to where, I can't, I'm getting hit with pressure, or trying to be forced to conform to certain things, you got to understand I was raised to go against the grain. even if it causes discomfort and causes a little pain. Like, and even if I get knocked from the time I was a child, as a baby, my mother tell a story, and I'll tell it real brief because I don't want to just die.
No, yeah.
I would, because during my reflection time, I have to feel like if you want to learn about who you are, of course, go back to your bloodline, but then go back to your childhood as much as possible. Mm-hmm. So through meditation, I spend time with my baby-like self, right? And also through conversation and stories with my mother. When I was a baby and I first learned how to walk, I learned how to walk by climbing out of the crib, falling and busting my head every time. And, right, breaking down, crying out as babies do. Every day I would do this. Then one day, my mom was in the kitchen, climbed out of my crib, and then I ran over to her. Part of the pattern from when I learned how to ride a bike, I remember I busted my lip, scraped up my knees, and I was hurting bad. But I had my tooth stuck in my bottom lip. The next day after that, my mom, she came outside and I was shooting up my super soaker. I was shooting up my bicycle with my super soaker. Then the next day after that, I was back on my bike riding. Right? And so the pattern is, we get knocked down. Right? We get knocked down. And then we might even yell, scream to get that energy out and express ourselves. But best believe we're going to push forward. And so that made even perfect sense when I was 15 years old and I was shot 3 times. And, I was down. I was down for the 10 days I was in the hospital. And even the 4 months that it took to heal physically, right? Being in the back brace and all that. But then after that, and after going through my healing process and all that kind of stuff and working through my healing process and spitting and rapping to express myself and get it out, I was back up pushing and moving. But see, and then as I began to grow into a young grown man, the elders, salute to Mr. Daryl Roberts. The elders, salute to Mr. Greg King. They put leadership in my lap. They're like, look, hey, young brother, look, these younger brothers listen to you. They listen to y'all. Shout out to my tag team partner, my brother, Lorenzo McNeil, aka Troublesome. Again, because we're talking about history, there's a lot of history of vehicles that led me to where I'm at now. Sometimes even today I have to stop and like, yo, how did I get here? And I smile, I laugh, I even drop some gangster tears. Right? Sometimes like, yo, this is a beautiful journey. I know at 15 I made a decision after, finally waking up from being shot, right? From being paralyzed, from having my lung punctured. After getting the tubes pulled out, I made a decision that I will not be there again. And I also made a decision that if I can help with my little cousins that was crying over me, that won't happen to them. Then as I began to push forward and also make the decision to not allow that situation to make me a victim, but make me a victor, or more so like make me stronger. Because before then it was low self-esteem, right? Didn't believe in myself. Didn't feel like I was loved. Didn't know how to speak life into myself. I would look at a mirror and I would cringe.
Where did you get those messages from? You didn't feel like that.
And so, why did you even ask that? Because it's just a lot of stuff that I talk about with my students too, right? And I do a lot of social emotional learning work, right? Trauma-informed care, learning and all this kind of stuff, right? Empowerment, leadership. And one of the things I talk about is, so there's, just like in a garden, right? There's seeds that get planted inside of us by the way of words, by the way of voice, right? There are people that will tell you something about yourself based on what they were told or what they believe, and don't have to necessarily be true, but it don't matter. You hecka black and ugly. And I'm going to keep it all the way real, because in this generation right now, just right now, things are starting to pop to where now melanin is popping. And melanin always been
happens every 30 years, 30, 40 years.
Shit happens, right? And melanin has always been popping, but y'all didn't always know.
That's right. That's what I thought.
Y'all didn't always know. And I and I tell you know, and I try not to get so caught up on the colorism thing, but I know that
it's real,
and it's very, and it's very
everywhere.
It's very real,
especially inside of Black culture.
And I tell them like this, like, yo, I'm gonna be like, yo, when I was a kid, the truth is, having this skin was not always cool to walk in, and it wasn't just because of police, it wasn't just because of white folks, it was because of us going to the playground, African booty scratcher, oil spill, skillet. Big Black, these are names that once again, we're talking about seeds being planted, right? Nah, it was not, it didn't feel good to have this skin during those days, right? During that time. But it wasn't until, I guess once you start hearing so much negativity, once you start hearing so much, depending on your heart, right? Going back to like the baby I was and the child I was, once so much is holding you down, you're already on the ground, ain't nowhere else to go. So if you have that kind of heart that I have, right, that is cultivated by way of my bloodline, after a while, it's like, yo, I don't even care what y'all think. But look, I've always been a dreamer. I've always been somebody that believed in the impossible. And so look, I'm gonna pretend like I'm a superhero. And so being in the mirror, and with the bath towel wrapped around my neck like I used to be when I was 3 years old, I started speaking life into myself. I started telling myself, I started seeing myself as I wanted to see myself. I started, before I go to sleep, I started daydreaming before my night dreams. And then what I started seeing was like, yo, it's not that I've changed, it's the fact that I've changed the way I see myself. And I started feeling more powerful. And then I realized that in truth, because vibration is so powerful, right? That in frequency is so powerful that then I started shifting and shaping. And then I guess that vibration and frequency is so powerful that people started how they viewed me started shifting and shaping. And so when, even humbly, and I don't think, and I feel like, yeah, we're gonna get real deep. I don't think people realize, because I have some people assume that like, hey, you may, that actually, I was told before that, like, oh, I thought you was all, you was feeling yourself, or you might have been feeling yourself, or there's a lot of, when we get that kind of stuff, right, with our people, for whatever reason, people are always watching and waiting for an ego. And I'm like, look, you don't know my journey, know my story. The fact that I could feel myself is a blessing. The fact that I'm in touch with myself, yeah, I spent time with him in the mirror. I spent time with my reflection. So yeah, I most definitely, I could tell you how great he is, because I know how much he loves you, even in the midst of all your BS and your negativity. It's not that I just think that he's all that in a bag of chips, but the spirit within him. I'm like, yo, I'm proud of that. My 7-year-old self will be proud of the man that I've become. And for me, I can go to sleep with that. So, and then walking in that, right? Walking in what you truly believe, like walking in what you can't see at first. Carrying it, and then treating it like it's so real makes it so real for others. And we call that things like confidence. And I've learned that confidence actually can take you a long way. Confidence can get you in a lot of doors. How are you sitting at? So what's your degree? I mean, I'm just a kid from South Sacramento that started telling his story. And then I don't know how I got to this table. I say that humbly, but I know that I'm here because I was supposed to be here. Because it really does not, there is never no one way to get to the top of the mountain. Everybody has their own path. And I know that God had laid a path for me to follow my vibration, follow my gift, follow my talent, whatever that may be. And that has opened doors. And so I'm blessed, I'm humbled for that piece. But this is even bigger. Because I want to make sure that I say this. This is even bigger than poetry. And yes, I'm a spoken word artist and I'm a poet. My profession, I'm an educator as well, right? I'm a mentor. I'm a big brother, all that kind of stuff. I think, but before that, I was a 3-year-old dreamer, and I think it would be cool that when I am a 80-year-old, my grandkids, my great-grandkids, be like, Grandpa, how we get all this? How did we get there? Well, I just started like writing my story and then started rapping and rhyming. And then all of a sudden, things started moving and doors started opening. And I intentionally, because I've spoken into existence, I intentionally built this legacy with you and my grandson, granddaughter. So that way, your head doesn't have to be held down when somebody say the name Kun. Or when the teacher calls out, Christopher Coon III. And then all the kids, Cocoon. No, they wouldn't be like Cocoon because there's been so much greatness that has been placed on the name, right? And so everything that I do from my art form, from my teaching, it's all about legacy. From the work that I do in the community, it's about building that legacy. It's about building the legacy of greatness because that's the legacy that was passed to me. And then somewhere around the 80s and the early 90s, a shift started taking place to where we started forgetting.
Great.
You say what now?
Hold on, wait a minute. Let me get this question before we get to that.
Oh, we got questions? Okay,
yeah, you got a question. Jody Johnson said, what's your vision for those with an awareness of their responsibility to address the things that's troubling our community? Great question, Jody.
Peace, bro. Good day. I'm glad that you chimed in. I don't know who else is on there. Matter of fact, can we take some time to just give shout outs to some of the
families please. Listening? So you got a lot of people on here. So
y'all let me kind of just express my heart. I just kind of went on a whole little on a fly and swim.
I think I'm on mother one. So you have everybody. You got Sister Dana on here, Brother Craig, Sister Sarah, Sister Melissa, Sister Cheryl, Brother Calvin Keys, Sister Tanya, Brother Craig. There we go. Sister Dana's on here.
Peace, family.
Sister Nunu, one of my former students. Hey, Nunu. She says she liked what she said, fall and get back up and try again is something I always remember. So you were talking about that earlier.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Jody's on here. Queen Mother Aziza Davis is on here. One of my elders, my cousin Dwayne Pill is on here. Dwayne, who talked last night and shared a story. Yeah. Sister Tanya, Sister Erica, Sister Lila, Brother Craig again. Brother from Haiti's on here, Pierre. How you doing, Brother Pierre? I'm trying to plan this trip to Haiti this summer. I'm going to be reaching out to you.
Let's go.
Brother Ryan's on here. My sister Khadijah. Hey, Khadijah.
Ryan McClendon. Peace, Ken.
Yeah. So you got some people. Sister Akila's on here from LA. Educator, real cool sister. So we got people on.
Right on.
Wow, we got.
I want to get to Brother Jody's question.
Okay.
And can you go back?
Yeah. His question is: what's your vision for those with awareness of the responsibility to address the things that's troubling our community?
Those with the awareness know that, like, one of the old school sayings and old school quotes. When you know, you owe. I've told a few of my students, like, hey, taking it deeper, when you care enough, that's when the responsibility is on you to be a leader. The fact that you care. I had one student that was like, every time we have this session, they always be talking and it be making me mad. That's why I don't show up no more. And I said, hey, the fact that you care, you now have a responsibility to start checking them and to start being the example. No, that doesn't mean. And so now that it gets deeper, that doesn't mean leave the hood because you don't like what's going on. That means now you got a responsibility to address what's going on. That means now you have to fight and address it in a way, find a way. And you might have to fight to find a way. Find a way to where you can shine your light to be an example. And I hope I'm answering the question and I'm touching on it. I will always push. Because there are things that we may not feel confident in, right? Like, they ain't gonna listen to me. If I try to tell, if I've gained a certain level of knowledge and wisdom, who's gonna listen to me? I will say this: obedience is better than sacrifice. So being obedient, regardless, if it's a tug and pull in your heart to share some information, if it's a tug and pull in your heart to deliver a message, it'll be in your best interest to go ahead and do it. Because when we start talking about the belly of the whale, right, and refusing to answer the call, depression is real.
Yes, it is.
And a lot of it, and this is through my battles with it as well, a lot of it comes from not following in that path, not following in your path, in the direction that your heart is pulling you in, and going against the grain of your heart. And that's something that I discovered, regardless of what your circumstances is. Regardless if you're sleeping in your car, and now I'm getting a little bit real. Regardless if your family is on board, regardless if you have support, regardless if everybody that you started this journey with starts to go the other direction, regardless if people start trying to falsify your character, regardless if people try to assassinate your character and speak bad on who you are, or regardless if they don't trust you, you still have a responsibility to do exactly what your heart is pulling. Exactly what God is telling you to do, and understand provisions will be provided. Provisions will be provided. And I say that from experience. I say that from traveling all the way to the East Coast, 3,000 miles away from home. Being in places where I had nothing in my pocket, and then strangers coming and like, hey, I don't know who you are, but I was meant to give this to you. Right? Being blessed, having doors opened up, having a couch to lay my head, having a hot shower, having some food, all these different things. But so I will always, so to answer your question, Brother Jody, I would tell any and everybody, move in obedience.
Okay.
Move in obedience.
So before that question, you talked about the 80s and 90s. There was a shift happening. And I know for a lot of Black communities, and I don't mean just in the ghetto when I say Black communities, because I remember talking to people and one was an engineer and the other one's a school teacher, and then crack showed up. And then their whole world, like, because we had never seen nothing like crack. We've always had people who did heroin and smoked weed and all that. We can go all the way back to, 40s and or whatever, 30s or whatever. But crack was something very, very different. Some people said it stole people's souls. Like, it just made people do stuff. How did that period of time impact you? Were you around in that period of time? Did you come of age in that period of time?
So we're getting really deep. That's how I know you're my sister. And we're amongst family.
Right.
So I was born in 1989. Now, I actually call it the earthquake year, right? Earthquake. I'm of the earthquake era, earthquake generation, which it explains those. I'm gonna just give some shout outs. It explains those of my birth age, birth year. Why we got some shaker and mover in us, and why you can't grab us in containers. I wish you would. We the generation that is a little bit rebellious. We laid the path for it. We're the age group that's rebellious. We laid the pathway for the 90s kids, right? The rebellious 90s kids to be like, I ain't listening to nobody. Because we were the ones that started like, yo, that don't sound right to me. Yo, I ain't feeling it. Yo, what you talking about? Yo, what? So, 89, in the heart of, not the heart, but towards, right in the middle of the crack epidemic, right? And for myself, I'm just being real. I have an uncle that was most definitely on the side of that game, played a big part. I have an auntie that most definitely was on the other side, right? To where you can call it a victim if you want, victim. She fell victim to it. I felt like there was not one kid in my neighborhood, in my class, that was not affected, right? Everybody, some way, shape, or form, whether your family used it, whether somebody used it, whether somebody sold it, whether somebody was born with it in their system, we all, in some way, shape, or form, was affected by it, or you were real close to somebody who was, which caused trauma, right? Because now you don't know why your uncle's stealing from you. You don't know why, you don't know why all these things are happening, and all these stuff that we don't talk about but needs to be talked about. But we're suffering from. Even like sexual abuse. But we got to keep it all the way real. I did a piece like, I didn't realize from all the kids in Valley High, and I'm just speaking particular in that neighborhood, although every neighborhood was rocked.
I get that.
But I'm speaking on what I can see with my own eyes. We all were affected by trauma. Right, we all had trauma. Every last one of us, and we didn't even know it. And there was fights on the daily. There was miscommunication and disagreements on the daily, and a lot of it had to do with the fact that I'm hurting, you're hurting, but we don't know that each other are hurting. I just know that I'm hurting, and I know that you better not call me another big black nothing no more. And matter of fact, see me after school, right? And then we were not taught exactly how to express ourselves, right? How to be able to communicate, right? Which is another reason why I started writing. My thoughts a little bit more organized when I write them down. We were taught to be more physical. We were not taught to be empathetic. We were the ones that had the gift of empathy. We were taught to turn it off. I was a large black kid with a gift of empathy, though. So I looked like a Rottweiler, but I really cared. But I was not taught. I was not allowed to show that part without being considered things like soft. When you got people hurting around you, I'm gonna say this because I just had a conversation with somebody today about kind of what's going on currently in Valley High, right? And I'm like, y'all gotta understand, this is a special place. It's a different kind of place. I got this is, but you have people with if you were on fire, would you be concerned with whether or not I was on fire? Or would you be concerned?
I'm trying to put my fire out.
Because you're trying to put your fire out.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is what we got. This is what we got going on. Like literally, like if I'm hurting so bad, I can't feel your hurt right now, right? And then we have a lack of understanding of the fact that somebody's hurting. For example, when I was shot, that's an acceptable trauma. People can see that. But when I was going through a great deal because of my breakup, a lot of people couldn't see that. That wasn't an acceptable trauma. That's a get over it and you good kind of situation. Then we got other traumas that our kids face, right? In the classroom, they might get moved from one home to the next. They might have their parents divorced. Those might not be acknowledged as trauma, but this is most definitely trauma. And so if we're not present enough, because we're on the go, we're moving so quickly, or we're high, we're numb, right? Which is also with what the crack epidemic did to us. We're so numb, so we don't even have time to even stop and see somebody else's pain, or the fact that somebody else is coping, or that somebody else is really crying out for help. Then what happens is eventually you get a cluster, you get a ball, a big ball of fire that explodes eventually, and then you see these things take place. And not to say, because I'm no quote unquote doctor, and I'm not trying to, but I was always a kid that sat back and while all the dysfunction was going on around me, while my OG uncles coming, drop off some guns at the house, because my mama's house was a safe house, because my mama was that sister that was the quiet one, stayed out the way, and she took care of her kids, took care of her family. Now there was a lot of stuff, and they all had their own forms of different traumas that affected them. But I feel like I come from a well-rounded family. I feel like I come from a family where I saw it all right around me. I saw different versions of it. I saw different styles of it. And so watching and sitting back and realizing, being 28 now, some of my aunts, my uncles, and some of the adults around, they were around the age that I was. And I'm like, yo, I made an intentional decision to be an adult now, only because I see what will happen if I don't play my part.
Real talk.
But some that came before me didn't know how to make that intentional decision. Some that came before me was like, they were still, hey.
I feel like Black folks never get a chance to debrief nothing that ever happens to us.
That part.
Like, because when you think of Valley High, when I grew up in the South there, and people who lived in Valley High had money compared to people who lived in the South area. You were trying to get to Valley High. Now everybody trying to get to Elk Grove.
During that time.
During that time period.
Yep.
I remember with G Parkway, Phoenix Park now, when people, I have friends that, I'm not friends, I knew people who were lawyers, and they bought their first piece of house over there at G Parkway when it was nice.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So I'm saying all that to say, I feel like one of the things that it seems like we're always on the defense, and we know offense win games. I learned that from my homegirl, Javon. Black folks are always on the defense, but we know offense win games. We're always looking at things sometimes from a like a deficit. When you consider all the stuff we've been through, we are so resilient. But I think we can go back and look at the past and learn from it. Because here's the thing, crack came, but before crack, we had desegregation. That killed Black people, honestly. We lost all our Black businesses. Yeah. I mean, integration, I think we were trying to get equality. There's a difference between having equality and being integrated. You could be integrated and be unequal. People still do segregation. I mean, so I'm saying that to you because I think when we look at like the 80s and crack and what it did to us mentally, that also came along after we had all these great Black power movements to neutralize Black folks. And so, to see someone like you that's awake, and then to hear you shout out your elders because they were around at that time, even though they're great. Now, I love Daryl, I love Greg, but I also want to hear from them brothers that was in the street doing that real dirt, because I feel like they have pieces of this puzzle that we're getting ready to revisit yet again, thanks to 45. But because we don't make room to be like, dude, I ain't gonna kill you. What the hell happened? And
so because of that, as I shout out my elders, I shout out my big homies too, because if it wasn't for my big cousin making a sacrifice that he made, right, on behalf of the family, honestly, and he ended up spending 10 years in the penitentiary, all right? My cousin is 6'6". I'm 6'4". He's 10 years ahead. He's 10 years older than me. I have a brother that's 2.5 years older, but that's what we looked up to. That's what I look up to. I remember when I was getting ready to make a decision, I was going to change the course of my life. Actually, this was multiple times over the course of even like 12 years,
right?
Multiple times. I had his example. While he was locked up, I thought about him. When I was getting ready to make a decision, because I got so frustrated because I could not get a job, and I had 50 interviews. I sat at each interview, each table as a big black kid, right? 16, 17 years old, then 18, and I kept getting turned down for the job. They felt uncomfortable. I didn't fit in. I wasn't good for the company. All these different things, right? And I remember I had a little side job. One of my boys who I was going to school with at this point in time, continuation school. Shout out to William Baylor. He started trying to get us ready for the real world, working early. My boy that I went to school with, his mom was owned a daycare at that time. He was like, "Look, my mom will hire you," and she actually was paying me under the table until, like, you know, then when she found out that they was coming to kind of like check things out, she was like, "Look, you gotta go get your fingerprints and all that." Right? And she was like, "I love you, do good work. I want to keep you. You know, the kids love you." You know, I was cleaning toilets. I was like, I was doing whatever.
They don't want to work.
Yeah, whatever.
I'm with that.
That's how I was raised by my pops. Like, I watched them hustle, collecting whatever you can. If that's what we got to do what we got to do. So then, when I went to the Department of Justice to get my fingerprint, and I found out that it was $90 and I only had $73 on what she paid me. That's when I got fed up and frustrated. Like, no matter what I do, you know, at that time, the same kind of frustration that a lot of our young people feel like, yo, I'm trying, I'm pushing, and every time I begin to push open the door, there's a wall. Y'all don't want, okay, I don't know what the right way is. I've never seen it. What I do know is how to do this. And at that time, and this is, like I said, transparency, because I had a partner that was actually hitting licks at the time, right? Breaking in people's houses and doing, and sometimes getting money, stealing money. Last time they had hit a lick, they got a few thousand. And for a 17, 18-year-old, I'm like, yo, I can eat off that. That was a lot of money, especially when I've never touched it. So I remember I picked up the phone, sitting in the parking lot of the Department of Justice. I picked up the phone and I called him. And normally he would always answer my call because it might be an emergency. That's what kind of bond and brotherhood that we had. That time he didn't answer the phone. And it gave me about 10 seconds to think and really to listen to God's whispers. And then I started getting visions and flashes of my cousin and my uncle, right, who both were serving time at the time. And I was like, wow, I'm the next one in line. And that conscious thought, I know what's going to happen when I go down this path, but I don't know what's going to happen if I try something different. And for the longest, I didn't know what something different looked like, but I kept doing different stuff. So yeah, let me just do this poetry thing. Let me just do this music thing and see what happens. And it kept leading me to more different things, new experiences, right? New ways to bring in income, right? Meeting new people, networking. And then finding out that my network is my net worth, right? Relationships truly is wealth.
That's real talk.
And I don't, like I said, so like and then going back to what I said, so when I do, because I sometimes get flashes of myself as an elder, and I see myself talking to my kids, and I get to thinking like, yo, because I do see that building, those homes, that land with our name on it, Clean Family Legacy, and grandkids, great-grandkids asking like, yo, how did you do all of this? And I'm saying, yeah, it all started with me following the path of poetry. Yeah, that's simple, right? Following my art form, following my gift, following my talent. So, but I would not have been able to do that had there had not been sacrifices made, right? I went to visit my big cousin when I was 14. He was like, and at that time I hadn't seen him since I was 7. And he was like, "What you doing now, boy? What you got going?" I was like, you know, nothing. And then my grandma was like, I was a little shyer. I was more shy at that point, and I kind of was like, "Oh, this dude got extra bigger," and you know, tattoos on arms like this, and I'm just like, "Nah, I'm cool. No, I ain't doing nothing." And my grandma was like, "You know, he writing poetry." He's like, "You a poet? Let me hear something." I started going, and then he looked at his wife at the time. He was like, "I'm a cousin of poet." Seed planted. That's only one of the times I could talk about when Miss Elder at Samuel Jackson Middle School in 8th grade. When they put me in her class, my drama teacher, they put me in her class because they were trying to write me off, because that's the class they put all the kids. And they still, up until we started running our program up there, that's where they would put the kids. The ones they couldn't deal with, the problem kids, right? And they said, if you have a problem, I will send them to us and we'll get rid of them. And she said, okay, I don't think I am. That first day I read a script and I watched her. While I was reading it, I was just reading it, just doing what I do. And she was like, and she went, you have a powerful voice. That I felt her vibration, her energy, and it blasted me back. I said, huh? And she was like, read this and read this. She was a seed planter. She planted the seed of who I can be. I never, at that point, I didn't have anybody tell me that I had a powerful voice, especially somebody, I'm gonna be real, especially not a white person.
Right. I get that.
Right? That's why I'm making, even now we still keep in touch, and she's probably watching. So shout out to you, Miss Elders. Also, today I just actually slid through at Valley High School, one of my teachers, Miss Harlan. And we butted heads because she didn't understand this big black kid, and I have a stern look like my great grandfather. I saw a picture, I was like, wow, that look of focus can come off intimidating. I'm aware. I don't do it on purpose. It's really love, y'all. and so she used to, I guess, she used to poke with me because I was just sitting there quiet and I was really thinking. I was always a deep thinker. She used to poke with me and then calling, and then after a while I'd get upset, like, hey, leave me alone. Like, oh, I see you got some bling bling, you know. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Like, hey man, you don't leave me alone. Like, hey, and why don't you do this? And you should do. And then she would call my mom every day complaining about me. And then it was only until the poetry unit, we're like reading a poem on Edgar Allan Poe. Then I went and I wrote my own based on one of his pieces, The Telltale Heart. And she called my mom again, and my mom was fed up and ready. Like, what does this woman want? And my mother answered the phone, and she went, I have a poet laureate in my class. I didn't know what one of those were.
Wow.
But, and then every Friday, at the end of class every Friday, she would allow me to share a piece. Like, these are all seed planting situations. These are all, these are all ways to cultivate a seed in a young person. And
so let me ask you this: how? Because you're giving me a lot of insight. You're giving all of us a lot of insight. So
I didn't know I was gonna do that, y'all.
No, but stories need to be told. I feel like we don't get a chance to tell our stories.
Right.
So how do you deal with this? If sometimes it feels like a division between black men and black women. How do you deal with that when that comes into your work? Because if you work with young people, I hear some stuff and be like, y'all, like, where do you hear that from?
Black woman, black woman. I say, black woman, I love you, black woman, black woman, black woman. I got your back, woman, black woman, black woman. I ain't one of those brothers that's put here to cast limits on you. See, I believe in you, even if nobody else do. I want to see you conquer all of your obstacles, and you safe here. This black man need to feel safe too. You see, in truth, like really, and I has been and out, man, nobody's ever asked me that question. Because of who my mother was, I love black women like intensely. And when I say I love the spirit of a black woman. I love women. My mother was a black woman, though, and I watched her strength. I watched when my pops left, and it's just me, my mom, and my brother, and I had over 100 degrees temperature, and it was over 100 degrees outside. And we're walking, and nobody else would pick us up from the hospital. Nobody else would give us a ride, and we had to walk in the heat all the way back home from the hospital. I watched my mother not break down when we had a school performance, and all the other kids came there with suits and ties. This was like when I was in kindergarten. All the other kids came with suits and ties, and me and my brother had the clothes that we had earlier that day. When we were walking behind her in Wood Park, right, in Valley High, going to Linebacker. I remember even at 5 years old, I had to check myself because I was feeling some kind of way. Because I'm like, man, I know they're gonna be dressed up. But I looked at my mom's leg, and she had holes on the back of her pants because my mom sacrificed. Because my mom made sure that we had first before she had.
So school.
Right? Like these, and there's so many different things. When it comes to, I watched my mother drop tears. I watched my mom had to hold that household and be ahead. I watched my mom not be able to fully trust men, not be able to then see the man in her son, not be able to and feel like she can trust the man in her son. And that's the best way I can put it. And I don't even know if she'll agree with that, but this is why I remember when I made a decision like, look, every woman that I see, I'm gonna honor her I'm gonna honor my mother by honoring her. Every black woman. I had a homegirl that said, our culture's the only one that don't protect their women. What you talking about? We kill you over our mamas. What you talking about? You say your mama what? You ain't gotta say the whole your mama what? Man, you just fights all day long on the playground. But then as I took some time to really think about it, she's like, no, if you look at the Middle Easterns, look at Asians, look at Mexicans, about their women, whether it be sister, auntie, niece, cousin, they'll go to war. It'll be death, it'll be blood, it'll be murder about that. About them. And I said, and I'm like, and then I started thinking about the songs that we have. Don't save her. She don't want to be saved. Right? And the thing is, and I'm not even talking in the sense of saving.
I get what you're saying.
I'm talking in the sense of letting them know. First of all, if you understand how powerful a woman is, you understand how powerful, like, especially in a home, understand how powerful a black woman is. The fact that, like, what her position, how she be the shaker and the mover. If anything you're trying to build, how she be really a man's piece when she is functioning in that properly, the right way, when she is comfortable, when she's safe, when she's secure, you're going to want to do your part to make sure that she's safe and she's secure. You're going to want to do your part to make sure that she's good. Like, hey, you're safe here. Because I've seen how women function and operate when they feel extremely safe. And then I've driven in a car when they don't feel safe. When they don't feel so safe, and then me being very empathic like I am,
real talk,
I start responding and feeling that energy, and then that can be a dangerous situation. But imagine if we're not in a car. Imagine any kind of situation, any kind of partnership, any kind of relationship. If she does not feel safe with you as a man, if she don't feel safe, then it can cause the walls to come tumbling down.
Do you think some of that issue with the black man, the black woman, comes from having lack of fathers to show young men how to interact with mother, woman, girl, young lady? You know what I'm saying?
That's a big part of it. It is a big part of it. It's not even, so the thing is, it's not even about having the example, but having an effective example as well. I no experiences, but I've dated women that had fathers in the home, but the example of what a father was disloyal. And so immediately, like, all men are disloyal, so I don't have to be loyal to him. I should not be loyal. I don't. In matter of fact, and it could skew the definition of what loyalty is. And so, like, with everything, with the lack of parent, I know that, and I was talking to one of my uncles, because of everything that took place, and we're talking about the crack epidemic in the 80s and the 90s, it did cause a death in the household where, not, fathers are not in the home. So now, like, and I got a lot of sisters that, like, I don't even know what a man's role really is, truly. I know most definitely that a woman can, she meant to do all of that. She can do it, and so I can do it. And so it starts to create a mentality of when all I know is, all I need a man is to help reproduce his child. After that, I got the rest. After that, I can do it all. And honestly, where I stand with that, you powerful. You have the ability to do anything in the world, but you shouldn't have to. You don't.
Well, what does that say to your male child?
That part.
I mean, I think that's why it just dawned on me, like, okay, I get the mother thing. Everybody know I love black women. I understand our power. But I also hear of women get mad when they son go and then be with other races. And Dog, that has he seen you be in front of a man? What does he see when you're with a man? Does that man get to be the man, or does he get to? I mean, you understand what I'm saying? I know
I have my own views. And I know folks may not
have.
even really agree with me and all that kind of stuff, but I'm kind of old fashioned, and but I'm not extra old. I'm also understanding that the world is shifting, right? Things are changing, but I do understand the reason behind roles. Right, I understand because I watched my grandfather and how he held it down. Even though I only spent 8 years of my life with him, and through his legacy, I watched how he moved, and I know that there are certain giftings that are given to man and to woman. Right, like my grandfather was one that had the gift of understanding, wisdom. Right, discernment. There was things that he kind of just knew. He was a visionary. He can foresee things. My grandmother has the gift of discernment. She can feel things, but she may not always understand what it is that she's feeling. But my grandfather had the ability to break things down and explain things too. When they during the times, and this is something that God told me and shared with me, during the times when they were in proper balance, when they were balanced and they were working together, that's when things were smooth. But the moment that if things ever begin to shake, if everything they begin to disagree with one another or not be working together, that's when things begin to rock in the household. Because we are meant, everyone that we're meant, when we come together to build a family, to build a village, an empire, whatever it is, we're called to come together because my gifting matches yours, or they balance out yours.
The yin and the yang.
Yeah, that part, very necessary. And so, I'll say that my man and woman together is very necessary. Man and woman together is very necessary. But it's also important that we have an understanding of each other's position in the roles. And it can be like, and mind you, it may, and not be an extra traditional, you have to clean or you have to cook. You may not have the skill set of cooking, but also understanding, like, because I come from men that love to cook. I love to cook.
Right.
I love to cook. However, I learned something as I've been on my own. I'm tired. When I'm being running around the city all day long, building, maybe even performing, sometimes I'm so weak. When I get home and being on my feet, cooking, I'll be like, yo, I'm ready to. I'm about to.
So, what makes a good woman? Give me 5 characteristics you think really help to make a good woman that you look for, that you think men look for.
Peace.
I'm trying to get him in there.
Peace.
Hey, Natasha. Hey, Stephanie. Hey, Richard. I'm going to email you. Try to shout out some people.
Peace. I'm saying that again. I'm not just saying what's up. I'm saying peace. That woman that has the ability to first have peace within herself and then be a man's peace. For me, that's, and I didn't speak for nobody else, but for me, I'm so attracted to calm waters. Now, I am also attracted to the water when it's a wave as well. Yeah, let's get, like, when we're out there. So being able to handle business, I love powerful women. I love powerful women, being able to, when it's time to go, but then also, in the home, being able to create a certain level of peace, an atmosphere of peace. So that's one attribute. Courage, being willing to go the distance, being willing to walk the miles. Like I said, even like within my mother, it was her courage. She could have just stayed stuck at the hospital because we didn't have a ride. Instead, she was like, I don't care how hot it is, we got to go.
I'll be walking. My mother was the same way.
That part, right? Courage.
Real talk. My mother was the same way.
You said 5, right? Being in tune. That makes sense. Like just being able to, naturally, I believe that women have intuition. Naturally, I believe that women have a certain level of connection. And even more when you're mated with somebody, when you're connected to somebody, you should be able to naturally feel them, even from a distance, even while they're somewhere else, being that connected to where you are understanding of what he needs before he even gets to the door. Like, you're going in prayer mode because you may feel like, oh, he might have had a heavy day. Like, all these different things. And
is religion a part of that, or spirituality, or
spirituality is that? We are spiritual beings.
I get that.
So like,
I get that.
you know, and that's why, you know, I'm not. The conversation. I'm not religious. I'm not in the. When I say I'm not,
I get that.
With being old school style tradition, I'm not saying that I am not traditional. I'm not saying that like you have to do this way. I'm not saying like, but I do believe that you have to have a connection with, and you can call them what you want to call them. I say God, but the higher power. You have to have a connection and ability to be able to go and build that relationship on your own. Being able to be alone, right? To be able to, whatever your relationship is, however y'all communicate, but being able to move with and move in hearing of Him, right? Or moving, being able to feel whole, even if that man, or even if that man was not there, being able to know that you're, to know that you're good, know that you're balanced, know that all these different, this is a spiritual component. Energy is real.
That's real talk.
Yeah, energy is real. I don't care if you can't see it or not. There are things that you know, we feel different things. Emotions are energy, right? We feel different things. Right. But when we know that we're secure because overall the Father got us, or you know, the higher power got us, it causes for us to be we begin to behave a little bit more balanced, and we know that we have divine power. We have divine power beyond just. And I'll tell people this because this is what I truly like. God is most definitely inside us. It is not. You know, I went from, in my journey, because I feel like that's what we were taught, right? Chase after God. Then it came to a place where, okay, I didn't chase. I got him. Now it's then knowing that it's inside. Now walking in it and knowing that we have the power to shape, shift, and move things, right? We have the power to move energy, especially. And so going back to the man and woman thing, having the power to, if you feel the heaviness, that you see the heaviness, have the power to move some of that stuff or to help alleviate some of that stuff, right? And it will show in even some of your physical movements, right? The touch. And this goes back, you know, not even just in a relation or a romantic relationship, but period. If I see one of my students hurting or heavy, I'm not gonna come and be like, "Where's your books? Where's the?" And this is stuff that I face.
That is so true.
Yeah. So like, okay, so we're talking about an attribute. So peace.
You said courage.
Yeah. My confidence. Peace.
Had to be in tune.
Being in tune. I like that. So being in tune.
I think you also said having peace. You said peace first,
right?
I
said peace.
And being your man's peace. That was the second one.
So that's all. I mean,
So like, you were there.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you know, this is something I also learned about what beauty truly is. Beauty is truly embracing yourself all the way and having the ability to master yourself. That's boom. So spending time with yourself to master yourself. Okay. Right, which comes with a form of confidence, right? To be able to know that you are your beauty starts with your spirit, and then radiance out, right? And then moving in that. Like once you master your kingdom or your queendom, right? Once you master that, and then moving and and then walking in it and standing by your man and knowing that you are beautiful and confident, you are sure in that. For me, it's a powerful thing.
So you said something. You said that black man has to be safe too. What would y'all be not safe then? So because we had this idea. I remember. So I watched on the film. I'm a film fanatic. I can't remember the name of this film. It's Danny Glover, and it's the woman. I can't remember, but he says something to the fact that we're not just hammering. We're just not hammering away all the damn time. We're not
at all
these hard shell people. There are some things we need as well.
You
said safety. What is that?
We started out as boys first, right? When we talk about men, we started out as boys first. And one thing, and I have one of my sisters. She has a 3-year-old son. She has a 3-year-old son, and today I went like this. I was like, ah! And mind you, because he's a warrior, he's a future. He'd be ready to go at any time. Right. He got a whole lot of heart. I went, and he went and hugged me, and I picked him up, and then he put his head on my shoulder, and he just stayed there for a minute. I sat down, and he just sat on my lap for a minute, and he just laid right there. And for the longest, I started gently rocking him. Now he's 3 years old, And honestly, he's sharper than your average 3-year-old. Like he is like almost sometimes I'll be like, "Are you fine?" Because we have real life conversations. Like I don't know if you can tell, I don't just have small talk. Like so, he really he understands things like respect. He understands things like patience. Crazy, but he also there's a part of him that needs that comfort, that nurturing. Also, a man's nurturing. Right. But so because it creates a certain level of, I remember there was a time where he woke up, his mom wasn't there, and I was there. And he started, and then that was the time where that's where our connection was built. And I grabbed him, I was like, "Hey man, you good?" And he was crying. He was like, No, watch out. No. Like I was like, he's pushing me away. And then I grabbed him and I hugged him. And then he hugged me back and he stayed there for a minute. And I said, "Are you good?" And he said, "Yeah." And then lay back down. Safety, security, knowing that we're good. When you see men aggressive, because we don't, as boys, they be a boy, be a man, be tough, right? We don't have the luxury of being showing that vulnerable side or that sensitive side without being considered weak or without being considered a punk. And so we don't have many safe places to go to where we can just be human, where we can just allow our emotions to show.
So let me ask you, if a man, because I feel like in our community, when Black men have been wounded, how do we deal with that? We talk a lot about women when they're wounded. We have our groups and blah, 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 blah. But when a man is wounded, it's what do we do with that? And we have a lot of mothers on here. Some of the people I shouted out, some of them have a lot of sons. They have young sons. So they become men and they've experienced being wounded or hurt.
It's funny that most definitely gentleness. And this is coming from somebody who's been wounded physically multiple times. So, and we're talking about gunshot wounds or whatever else. Look, I remember, and I still remember her and her voice and her sound. I had a nurse. It was like 5 in the morning. She'd come in at like 5 in the morning. And hey, sweetie, hey, like everything from her voice to her touch, everything that she did was very gentle and careful, very careful. And so when we're talking about, it might be emotional wounds, right? It might be mental wounds. Being careful. I'm not saying being coddling and treating that man like he's soft and like he's broken, like he's a victim. Nah, know that he's a victor and he's going to be strong. He's a warrior. He's going to keep pushing, but you got to know that, or if not, you can create the mentality inside that man that you're supposed to stay down here forever. You know what I'm talking about? That you are not, you will never get better. And then that's a whole other conversation because there's some people that will enable for the sake of themselves feeling powerful. Some, and I'm not just beating up. I love my sisters. There's some, and I got it in my family too. Even my grandmother, right? That enabler in her. If as long as you need me, I feel strong. I feel powerful, or whatever that may be. But it's important to be able to understand the power in a man, to be able to encourage and speak life into the power in a man. But in those moments, do it gently, by having the gentle moments of care, right? Of knowing, like right now, he might be in shock. He might have just had a wound. That it might be a fresh wound. So, you might have to clean it around it. You might have to touch it gently. You have to be careful. And so, like when we're dealing with the other piece is understanding that we're not allowed to talk about a lot of our wounds.
How do we break that though?
Open conversation. But so there's something else that I'm building, and I'm not sure what it's going to be called because I don't know. I'm not sure what it's going to be because it was a vision. And in my car, those that know me best, those that are connected to me, know about the safe zone. Come in my car, you're good here. And I've had strangers in my car, and I let them know like this is a safe zone. Feel free to relax, sit back, and kick back. If you got something like your chest you want to get out, get it out. Like feel safe enough, right? So creating like I was looking at that room. When I first walked in, I was like, yo, that is grandma's house, right? And I'm like, there's a certain level of comfort. Like in there, I can have some that part. Being able to feeling safe enough, feeling secure enough to know that I can have vulnerable conversations. So then building that kind of atmosphere, right? For open dialogue. I have a father right now. We don't really, and I'm reading my father is, we butt heads. And I just had to keep it all the way real. Because in my dad, does not share too much some of his own trauma. As a matter of fact, because that was as taboo to even speak about it. It doesn't even matter. I ain't tripping on that. I ain't worried about that. But there's still effects of that. It still comes out in his behavior that affects him. And so creating a place to where and that may take a long time, it may take years. I don't feel like we have truly cracked that code of how to do it. But I do know, and this is why my heart has been poured towards the younger generation as generations go. Sometimes you got to start a seed from a seed. You have to start the tree from a seed. My grandpa used to say, this is one of his legacy quotes, right? Because he was a gardener. When the tree is a baby, you can bend it, you can twist it, you can do whatever you want to do with it. When it starts to grow more, become a grown-up tree, it gets a little bit harder to bend. And so, like, when it comes to these babies, that's why, like, for me, like I said, my sister with a 3-year-old son, for me, I took that moment and I was very present, and I may or may not have dropped against the tear to know that he was comforted in that moment, to know that he was safe in that moment, to know that in that moment he was being taught love from a man, and that it's okay for men to hug. It's okay for men to show affection and to show love to each other, right? So I would say safety, but I would say starting with the younger generation.
So we give an example. One time I was in a conversation, it was a whole bunch of us, and people were kind of talking about like their first experiences. And one dude said his first experience, he was 6. And we was like, that's not like you saying you was 16 or you was 18. I think part of me felt like in his mind, was he trying to be like a G, like, but it's like, I'm talking about this is this person's first sexual experience. And I'm like, but he said it like yeah, and then she was like 15, but I was like, dude, that don't sound like no first experience that you're trying to make it out to be, because if you were 6, then that's something else. That's not my first great experience. And so I think sometimes I hear men sometimes when they're trying to turn it into,
we embody it as we have to turn it around to be like, because, and that goes back to society teaching us that that's what we're supposed to do, right? And that you're a man, that you're gonna get a woman regardless of how it played out. But you can definitely can't. As a kid, you can be like, yo, something just happened and it wasn't cool. But when you get older, when you become a teenager, and the ideology around you is you're supposed to lose your virginity. You're supposed to, one of the big homies on the block, I remember we did in school. We was walking around the corner, and he came out. He's like, man, ain't y'all supposed to be in school? And then he was talking, and he ran the house like, oh, let the thong in the thing. Came out the house like, hey, whoever's the first one to slip the drawers, they're gonna be the first one to get it. And like I said, this is a more transparent conversation because this is the kind of stuff that happens in where we're from. Not even this period, right? This is a lot of the conversations, but it's taboo to talk about. But these are really happening, right? And so, and then my brother was like, all right, because it's taught that that's what we're supposed to be doing. And so and because that is a path for us, it's a stepping stone towards manhood. That's being taught that you're a man if you do this. There are a few things that they have said that you're considered a man, or you get respect or props if you do this. If you lose your then you go over the first one to get one, okay, and then now he has respect, right? You're a man if you're tough, right? If you don't back down, you got hands though. He got hands, because that's the protector, right? You're a man if you got money. So that's why a lot of the cats, they might be hustling. But that's the provider, right? All these different attributes. And what has happened now is becoming watered down, and we're only teaching traits. We're not teaching truly like where this comes from. We're not teaching a protective provider piece. We're not talking about the fact that no. And so now I gotta be real. And so now, our women are attracted to real niggas.
That's real talk.
They're attracted to real niggas because these are traits which appears they have traits of men, right? Traits of manhood. He got money though.
That's real talk.
Ain't nobody gonna try him. That's what the whole hood star thing is about, right? Like the cat that don't get, that got respect in the hood. And I know a woman feels like a woman when she with, right? Because it's like
somebody said, "Speak, brother," up on in the comments. Everybody's like, "Speak." That's real talk.
Yeah, most definitely.
And you just explained how that carries over into relationships.
Very much so.
You know what I'm saying? Do you think some of that has to do with why our neighborhoods don't necessarily feel protected? Because we lack the men who understand that that's a part of their manhood is to be a protector, not just get the draws.
And not just get the draws. And I just had this conversation today. And even going back to State of Nature, right? Going back to Travel Day, we were talking about our roots, right? Elders are for counsel. Young men are for war.
Young men for counsel. Elders for war. No. Young men for war, elder men for counsel. My dad says it all the time.
And the thing is, to keep it all the way solid, the structure, if you go back to the 60s and 70s, 50s, 60s, that was the structure of our neighborhoods. The OGs gave the structure like, listen, this is the group, and the young, you're strong, you're young, you're healthy, we got this. Right? That's the history, that's the origin of gangs, that's what people, and so I don't want to, mind you, I do a lot of work in the community. I feel like they have watered down that terminology of gang. Like they use that word gang, I'm like, but you're not understanding. No, this is a village, this is a tribe, and because we didn't have anybody looking out for us, and we decided to look out for us. So we came together. We like, hey, bro, the ones that are about that life, we stand to the forefront. And you can break it down to just a household. If it was the brothers that were tough, and I just had this conversation with some of my cousins and my uncles pertaining to some of the women in my family in situations that have occurred. Somebody harmed them. Somebody tried anybody in this family, and we show up. Period. Point blank. The youngsters, we show up. No, you sit down. But as far as me and my cousins, no, I wish somebody would. And it was you have these situations. As of recently, even now. Even with the work that I do. And it's not even about having a certain, being a real nigga, being a hood. It's not even about that. It's about, at the end of the day, being a man and being a young man, your position on the job is to protect the village, right? And so, having that conversation about pretending to Valley High, because there's been a lot of things going on, right? And Valley High is one of those neighborhoods. I would say it's a transient neighborhood. My mom and dad met right in now it's the Planet Fitness parking lot. It once was the SB1 parking lot. It once was DZ Discovery Zone parking lot. I'm always, shouts out to South Sac and real South Sac natives that really know about that remember Discovery Zone, right? We used to have Camelot Park, Cal Skate. We used to be popping in the South area.
Everybody was trying to get to Valley High.
Yeah. And so I say that to say, my mom and dad met in that parking lot. And that was around the time where, and actually the soldiers used to live in Countrywood, right? My pops was a soldier. He was at this time he was stationed in Sacramento. He was living in Countrywood, and there was a club across the street, and that's where the soldiers would go to kick it that night, and that's how we met. They walked around the parking lot. So I'd be like, yo, when this Valley High thing, I'd be like, yo, for the longest, because of the fact that I played there and I didn't get along with a lot of cats growing up there. Sometimes I was like, my roots is Glen Everest. I feel like, hey, as far as my teachers, as far as my loved ones and my respect, and as far as those who can rise for me, it's Glen Everest. But then I realized that we have a responsibility. I have a responsibility. The place that you learn from, the place that you bred in, the place that gave to you, whether it be good, whether it be bad, whatever it gave, you got a responsibility to do your part. And everybody has a part to play. And so as of late, with the recent bloodshed, and mind you, there's been a lot of bloodshed, but I don't know why it tugged on me so hard this time. It did though, and mainly because it took place, and I don't want to go extra in detail about it because I stated before, I don't speak on things that I don't have all the detail about because I know how many stories can get twisted up. Because it happened with me when I was shot. All kind of things happen. But it happened on the grounds of a place that was put there to be a safe place for kids. And that bothers me because I'm not a father yet, right, biologically. But from the time I was 3 years old, I wanted to be a father. My mama bought her house in Valley High. I told her, I was like, hey, how about I buy you a big house one day? She's like, well, I got my house. So she don't plan on moving. So that means when her grandkids come to visit grandma and grandpa, they're gonna be walking up. They're gonna be walking to the grocery store. They're gonna be going to the park. They're gonna be going to the park. They're gonna be walking up the street, and they have right to be like, Daddy, what did you do to clean these streets up? You've been knowing about me since you were 3 years old. You've been knowing I was gonna come. And for some parents, since for 9 months at least, or 10 months, you've been knowing that your baby's on its way. And so it goes back to that responsibility. Just like we baby-proof houses, let's baby-proof our neighborhoods. And so that means going back to the old school village mentality and structure. Like, look, and it wasn't until I sat at the table. I get invited to a lot of tables. I don't know how being on the stage and making people like, hey, get that brother to come and speak.
Right,
but
right.
It happens, right? And I sat at a few tables and I was like, look, Valley High doesn't, because of many things, there is a lack of elders, OGs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dead, locked up, drugs, all this kind of stuff going on. And this person was like, that's because you're an OG. You're the OG. I'm like, look, I know I got a little whisker. Look, I got my wisdom whisker, but hold on, what you mean? Young people listen to me. I don't listen. They could be kicked. But the trust piece, when the willingness, and mind you, the younger generation have a different way of hearing and listening and responding because they're taught differently. They were not taught to listen to their elders, like me and some of the brothers around my age group, right? I was like, and I say it like, I was joking earlier, but I'm still serious about the piece. Like, for like 89, I was like, I'm on the cusp with the last age group that listened or had elders to listen to and knew how to sit back while grandma was talking.
That's right.
And so like my grandma be making grits, I'll be making her sweet butter rice in the kitchen. She telling me about all the old school stories and things that happened in Louisiana and things that happened in the family and about her father. I have the patience to be like, and just listen for, I don't care if it's 5 hours. Some of the younger generation don't have grandmas that are as old, that are as of age like my grandma,
right,
to where they have to be a little bit more patient with her story and listen, or taught to listen a little bit longer. But I understand that, I get that. Microwave generation, but my generation got that microwave because we was the one that was trying to figure out ways to do things quicker too, right? Like, okay, that'd be dope. We just push a button. That'd be dope if I don't have to walk to nobody's payphone, right? That'd be dope. The innovative, right? And so the younger ones, I had one of my mentees. One of the elders was talking to myself and also one of my mentees, and the whole time he was like kind of rolling his eyes and shaking his head. Then at the end, he's like, "Yo, what the hell was he talking about and why?" And then me and one of my brothers was like, "He actually was giving a lot of game, but you weren't. Your ears are not programmed to receive it just yet. But you got to understand that he had a lot of game and it's free advice. But it's cool though." And that's when I realized the position is to almost be a bridge. Receive it from the elders and then pass it down to the youngsters. And I don't know how long I'll be in this position. I don't know how long, but
I'm just glad you're there. I'm serious. I'm glad you're there. And I feel like a lot of young people, as well as old people, their time is coming. That's one thing. It's like time is speeding up. I hear young people say, "Man, when you said that to me 2 years ago, I couldn't receive it, but now it totally makes sense." Right. You know what I mean? And I'm very hopeful. Thank you for coming in and talking with me. You shared a lot. I like that.
Yeah, I felt like that was. I was like, I don't even know if this was the direction of the conversation that you had in mind.
No, because first of all, you're a black male. We don't get to talk to black men a lot. And really, you be candid. Because sometimes you'll see black men and it's all about imagery. And I gotta just be, the body. But I also know that it's very freeing to other men and women, but mainly to men and to young boys to say, that happened to me. Like there's some topics I really want to talk about. I do a lot of talking to younger people, older people, whatever. I think there's some things going on with black men that deserve real conversation. But it takes courage to have those kind of conversations.
And so I'm going to, and I just had some meetings, some sit downs. I'm going to be going, and I try to be careful about letting cats out the bag before cats are done being kittens.
That's right.
But
I got to do it because I think that's a part of our healing. is to share them stories. And I think when we don't do it, then people we keep passing on our woundedness.
So I'm going to be on the front line of bringing together. We call it power circles. We have those conversations. Now, we have healing circles out here as well.
Yeah,
but
power circles, I see that.
So that way, and on Saturday mornings, because a lot of times you might get some inspirational stuff happening at school. You might get somebody from the community come in and talk to you. You might feel good at school, but then on the weekend, you're going back to the environment that you're from, and you don't have anybody speaking language. And so my idea is to start them off early Saturday in the morning, Saturday morning, and we come together as me and young brothers to the OGs, right? We all come together and just keep it all the way honest and real. We speak life into each other, and we learn how to speak life into ourselves. But the thing is, this tours every neighborhood, and it'll be a safe space to where as it's touring, it's picking up the young people, those from that neighborhood, and then it's building a camaraderie, it's building a brotherhood, it's building a fellowship. So no matter where you are, you could be at the state fair, and that cat might be from Oak Park, and he's from Valley High, and your partner, him, or his partners might get into it with him, but you know that's your brother. So hey, you off limits. And I say that because I have that kind of partnership, that kind of brotherhood. I got brothers that are from different neighborhoods, or maybe dealing with different groups, and I might show up to an event, nobody else knows me but him, and some might feel some kind of way, right? Or be like standoffish, like, oh, that's my brother. And then because of that vouch, I have instant access, doors open, and teaching the youngsters how to vouch for each other. That's me, right there. Oh no, he's good. And so that's it's gonna come a time. But I've been rounding up a few of my brothers that I've been connected with for a few years, a few of our brothers, to pretty much spearhead this thing. We all just coming from different directions with giving this game and being a little bit more aggressive. I feel like sometimes we can do things on a political level. It sounds good and it feels good and it looks good for the camera, but on some real G, like it ain't on a political level that we're suffering. Like out here, like in the household, like when the power's off, that's how we suffer, right? And it's happening right there in the home. It's happening in present time. It's real. Their situations are real, so we need to be more real with our approach.
The revolution will not be televised.
Man, I be trying to tell, and I'm like, yo, and a lot of cats, because I had a lot of people like, yo, what you been doing? Are you still doing? I'm like, y'all just don't see. But I'm at the place where 2018 hit. I'm like, yo, it's time to start showing a little bit more, right? So y'all to plant that seed of hope, right? To show like, no, this real work being done, and don't think this is all show, because it's a lot of work that's not being shown, and it's not necessarily immediate to be shown. But there are some, might be some midnight pop-ups. One of my youngsters like, hey, you good? You have food? What you need? Come on, get you out of here. Let's go lay down somewhere else. Whatever the case, but because we got different things, laws, whatever the case, some of it may be off the record. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
That's how it's supposed to be.
Real work is happening, and I'm not here on no political. This is not me campaigning for nothing. I'm just saying that, like, I'm instead of fearing for my future babies' lives, I just decided to start laying the foundation to do something about it. So by the time they get here, I feel a little bit more comfortable with knowing, like, oh, they got a big brother from over here because I didn't pour into him. That guy's back. But he's good over there. He has instant access over there.
So before we wrap up, could you give us one more of your spoken word pieces? Leave us with some wisdom, but maybe.
What you want to hear, like, because I can. What direction I'm coming from?
Something around.
I feel like we went real heavy.
No, because I'm gonna tell you, you'll find it. But I feel like we need to. You notice during the thing I talked about issues, but I didn't try to dog black folks. Why we ain't doing? I can't stand when people do that because I feel like people who complain ain't doing nothing. Because when you a doer, you out, you try to figure out how do I solve it. It's not like ain't nobody. It's like I'm doing, but how do I get this part done? How do I fix some stuff? Complainers usually are not doers.
Yeah. It's no, like, look, I believe that wherever you place your energy, put water on soil, on the seed, it's going to grow. So if you want something to grow, you got to speak life into it. If you want something, you want to see, And I was guilty of this too at once upon a time. Like, I gotta get out of Sac is black, blah, 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 blah. It wasn't until I traveled, left home, way out in the East Coast, Washington, D.C. Shout out to anybody in the East Coast who's watching this. All my family that looked out for me, cared for me. Currently building a bridge right now to help y'all come in and experience some of this. But it wasn't until I looked back at home and I was like, yo, I love my city and it has so much potential, there's so much growth. And I realized how much I realized how much I loved it and how much love it has in it and how much greatness it has in it. And so I began to put a lot of energy towards that greatness. There's a lot of, when I came back home, I came back home with a lot of homies I grew up with that were gone, family members that were gone, a lot of bloodshed. But I intentionally, because I do understand how energy works, to an extent, I decided to speak life unto my city, right? Unto like focus energy on the beautiful things that are happening. I don't feel like we got enough of that going on. I feel like the media most definitely. I stopped watching the news. I'm gonna be honest. Like I get the news from Facebook now, but like the stuff that's really important, I guess. But like the media puts a lot of energy on shooting happened here, or the negative, rather than like, oh, what about this barbecue that these people are, the free food that they're just giving out just because the feeling of this neighborhood, or the luck, or this person is doing this, and not to hype up any one person, but to show the beauty of that place. Right. To show like, yo, this garden.
That we care for each other.
Yeah, that part. So we're gonna show that more. So I'll get into I'll get into this piece. I don't know why I'm gonna come. Let me just let.
All right.
Okay, so I do have a brand, right, a movement, and this was when I was sent back home. And I was like, all right, guys, I came back and it was just like, everything was yellow paint and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, yo, what's happening? My family looking hurt and all this stuff. And so I'm like, yo, I don't know what is going on. And I remember praying and I was like, God, what do you want me to do? Like, how can I stand in the midst? How can I help change some stuff? And what I got back was to do what I created you to do, to do what you do best, and that's to give your heart, and that's to love. And so the brand, the movement, hashtag bring your heart, right? And that's literally being very. So I'm gonna explain this real quick. I know I'm talking, listen. But it's to be proactive in a sense. And breaking down that myth of you ain't supposed to wear it. No, don't wear your heart in your sleeve. That's how we was taught, right? Don't wear your heart in your sleeve. But see, what I realized is the only way to kind of heal some of the pain that's going on is we have to take the heart from the inside of us and put it on the outside of us and wear it. And that way people can wear it through courage and vulnerability. Right? The heart of courage, the heart of compassion, right? And like my logo is actually it's the human heart, right, which represents courage and strength, right? Because a big homie, like when you actually took that fade and you didn't back down, he was like, hey, you may not have won, but you got heart, bro, right? And so that heart, because it takes heart to have a heart. That's right. A heart of compassion, right? Being able to be compassionate enough to see, like, hey, he's just hungry. Feed him. Or he just hurt. Look, just give him a hug, right? So boom. So I say this: speak life when you're feeling lifeless. Give love when you need it most. When you feel as if you may not reach your destination, whisper to the mirror, you're getting closer. Whisper to your brother, you're getting closer. Whisper to the mirror, you're getting closer. And whisper to your neighbor, you're getting close. Speak life when you're feeling lifeless. And give love when you need it most. When you feel as if you may not reach your destination, whisper to the mirror, you're getting close. And so I encourage you. I encourage you to find the courage to love yourself. Go ahead and hug yourself with a warm embrace. For however long it takes, hold on to yourself with strong affection. Look into the mirror and smile at your own reflection. Get good at it. Overindulge until it becomes one of those good, bad habits. Know that the secret to a good smile is having a happy face. So reconnect with your inner child and find your happy place. Let's go back to the essence of our adolescence. Let's open the door to acceptance. But this time, don't exactly kid yourself. With every mistake comes a learned lesson, so forgive yourself. Give yourself everything you've been craving for. Open up your heart's door with a courageous roar, letting it be known and confidently shown that you are no longer alone. So on your own, you don't have to be brave anymore. That's what this ability of turning these pages are for. So let's make love. Better yet, let's recreate love. Let's inspire the minds of those that hate love. Let's take love to a whole new direction. And let's turn it into something more greater and concrete than just the lust for affection. Let's give love some correction, a new definition. Let's redefine it as not how many emotional feelings we can have at one time, nah, but how long we can actually mentally love in repetition. So let's keep love consistent, but let's not get love twisted. Just because we're walking forward in love don't mean there ain't gonna be no love friction. And let's stop looking at love like it's fiction and unrealistic, like the only real chance of love we'll ever get is watching it on reality television. So ladies, y'all quit it, but for my fellas, let's reshape love. Let it be known that love just ain't for no square. But it takes a well-rounded gentleman to be masculine enough to show that he cares. So let's take some of this love that's flowing through the air and let's inherit it as if we were the heirs, and let's get a handle on love. And since we actually come from love, let's be an example of love. And if anybody shall enter our presence, let's allow them to get a sample of love. And if the enemy tries to intervene, let's be like, stop hating Satan. You know you can't tamper with love. So let's be gangsters for love. Better get downright gangbangers for love. And since now we're no strangers to love, whenever we see somebody else in love, let's throw it up like, love. And let's grow to be OGs. And let's show some of these young G's. This is love. This is love. Let's stop all that love hate. You know, you actually ask her to be your Valentine's Day. She frown up her face and be like, ugh, I can't stand that holiday. Y'all get what I'm trying to say. I don't want to overly stress love, but this world is a hateful place without it. So let's just speak life when you're feeling lifeless. Give love when you need it most. When you feel as if you may not reach your destination, whisper to your mirror, you're getting close. And then whisper to your brother, you're getting close. Whisper to your sister, you're getting close. Whisper to your reflection, you're getting close. Peace and love, y'all. Hashtag wear your heart, Queen the Poet. Yeah.
Wow, y'all, that was incredible. Put your comments in, y'all. We getting ready to be out of here. I think cool. That was you just wrapped that all up, y'all. I'll be back with y'all again soon. See you tomorrow. Peace.